All right, thank y'all for tuning in to our Week 6 recap. It was another good week of SEC football, some good football around the country. We wanted to give you a segment where we just kind of talk about what our thoughts were this week on the SEC and what our thoughts were around some of the football around the country. A lot of great games, 4 kind of SEC on SEC games and 1 SEC versus a G5 team. But Hunter, what would you say was the game of the week this week? And let's kind of get into it.
As far as the SEC is concerned, I think the game of the week was Texas, Florida. You know, I in my mind going into the week, it was going to be Alabama, Vanderbilt, the hype around it, the storylines, the trash talking.
Yeah.
But as far as the SEC is concerned, as we look forward on the season, Texas is now a 2-loss team. Yeah. Florida is now showing that they can spoil as they have some games coming up that are going to be important. That was the biggest game of the week to see the bounce back, and then now to see Texas and how they're going to play in SEC competition. So shout out to Florida for putting on an actual, offensive performance that was one of the best of the week.
Yeah, definitely one of the best of the week, and a big shout out to Florida, right? When this game was on ESPN, I made a comment about it in our preview, thought it should have been on ABC, and it was the first time for Florida to really show what this offense could do. We saw Dallas Wilson kind of join the party, 100 and something yards from a reception perspective. DJ Lagway, 298 yards, second most yards in the SEC this week, 21 for 24, 21 for 29. He looked comfortable. He looked like it was pretty easy for him to be able to do his thing this past Saturday.
Yeah, and we had our team of the week, and we talked about Dallas Wilson and what he did. It might be the missing piece for this team to have a receiver that Lagway seems super comfortable with. I guess I don't know how that relationship developed in the offseason and how they were missing him when he was out. But once he was in the game, there was a lot that he brought to this team. So now as Florida goes forward, they have different weapons. They have Jaden Ball. They have all the different receivers now with Dallas Wilson, Sturdivant, getting everyone involved. I like what this Florida team can go forward. I don't think that this is damning for Texas, though, either. I think it looks bad because of Florida's struggles early on. I don't think that now Texas, there's any red flag like this. Oh, we're done. We're bad. We're terrible. I don't think that that's the case. I think this was just one first road SEC start for Arch. Now he's played 2 road games, Ohio State and Florida. They've lost those 2 games. It isn't a complete performance from this offense for Texas. But I think that it's to Florida's credit at making that difficult for them.
Yeah, it's definitely to Florida's credit for making it difficult for Arch. And I think what I liked about Arch in this game was he had some good deep throws. He looks more comfortable on the deep passes. He also had a couple deep throw interceptions, but he looks pretty comfortable in the deep passes. Want to see more from him on the intermediate passes, and just kind of being more comfortable in the pocket. I guess that comes from just starting and playing full-time games in the SEC. I watched this game and I'm like, is the Texas defense going easy on him at practice? Because I know the Texas defense is good, but it looks like he's still trying to get comfortable playing in the SEC. And that's not coddling Arch. It's not making it softer that he has not been playing as well. It looks like it's a comfortable thing. And you see that with his turnover challenges because of the defense.
I think that the media coddling Arch is not what needs to be happening. I think Texas needs to coddle him just a little bit on the play calling and giving him more high percentage throws. He threw just as many passes over 20 yards as he threw under 20 yards. That's usually not the split you see. His average depth of target was 20.8 yards in this game. Mm-hmm. He was airing it out.
Yeah.
It's good when it works, but you're not doing high percentage throws that are moving the chains, showing different looks to the defense. They're going to start dropping guys back. I mean, they were stopping the run. So there wasn't that much that Texas could do there on the ground. All we got to do is stop them throwing deep. So we'll see how this offense develops going forward under a really, really great offensive head coach.
Yeah, we'll definitely see how it develops going forward. And I would this on for Florida's defense, they showed what we've really seen all season. The 21 points doesn't really tell a story of how well they were able to defend in this game. And we talked about what Arch's struggles were, that causing a lot of pressure with Tyreek Sapp, clogging up the running holes. They did just about as good of a job as they can, and they clearly just needed another home game, right? They played Miami on the road, they played LSU on the road. They needed a home game. So so Florida looks legit. They got A&M coming up this next week. We're going to be previewing that game if you watch our content. And then Texas, of course, playing the Red River rivalry. So they're going to be playing Oklahoma next week. So also be previewing that game. Next biggest game of the week, I would say, was Alabama Vanderbilt. That was the one that was, on the spotlight. Tell me if I'm wrong, Hunter. Thoughts? What did we learn about Vanderbilt? What did we learn about Alabama?
I think going into the game, I feel like the game kind of came out the way I was thinking it kind of would go. I mean, we were pretty close here on our call for this game that Alabama would go up by a couple scores, win by a couple scores here, and it happened that way. I think, Vanderbilt has a interesting offense that presents itself in such an interesting way that until you get your legs under you and start to figure out what they're doing, it's going to get you a little bit. And it did in the first half for Alabama. The Vanderbilt offense had them on their toes. I said it, every time that Vanderbilt had the ball, every snap they had, I'm like, they can score right now. Like they could have been 80 yards out. I'm like, they can break a play open on this Alabama defense. As Alabama defense, though, figured it out, stopped the run. I mean, really the only thing that Alabama was giving Vanderbilt in the second half was the flats. And they'll take that every day, 6-7 yard passes to the flats.
Yeah, and that was kind of the story for Vanderbilt's offense, because a lot of times when they were moving the ball as big plays, we talked about it before the preview. We saw that big Cedric Alexander run. What Vanderbilt came into the game and did well was kind of establishing momentum, kind of taking the crowd out of it for a little bit. We saw that in the first half. So the offense can be good. Is it sustainable? We didn't see it in this game, but they were able to get in the red zone a lot. Their defense, you called this, like their defense was going to give up points. And more times than not, their defense found themselves in the red zone or kind of on the 30, 40 yard line, having to made the stops to cause field goals, but they're still drivable on.
Yeah. Whether you want to call this field goal, touchdown, each team left 2 scorable opportunities on the board. Alabama, no confidence in the kicking unit. You could tell from the first 4th down that they went for. Throwing that they probably shouldn't have, but Vanderbilt 2 turnovers in the red zone. This game could have been a lot more high scoring if some things went differently. Teams were driving on each other. Vanderbilt defense got pretty lit up by the Theismann, people saying, and Ty Simpson. I mean, he was dotting up this defense all game. After that interception in the first one, I mean, he was able to move the sticks, and it took Vanderbilt out of the game from a time of possession, which is what Vanderbilt is so good at. Let's hold the ball. Let's not give the opponent a lot of opportunities. Alabama said, we can play that game. I mean, held the ball for majority of the second half, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely held the ball for the majority of the second half. And I think the overall time of possession was 35 minutes for Alabama and 22 minutes for Vandy. And, what I take away from this game for Ty Simpson and his Alabama offense is that, like we talked about in the team of the week, when I watch him make plays, he's willing to kind of adjust in the pocket and take that hit. And like you saw it with the big Isaiah Horton throw in the first half. You saw it with the Jeremy Bernard throw. He's able to roll out. Like, he doesn't take bad sacks. Like I said, I want to say like, oh man, why did we play him last year? But maybe it's a Ryan Grubb thing. Maybe Ryan Grubb develops guys like Michael Penix. He develops guys like Ty Simpson, and he puts them in spots where they're comfortable making the right plays.
He works to the strengths of his guys. If he didn't ditch Alabama for Seattle last year, Ryan Grubb, like, who knows what this team could have done with Jalen Milroe under this offense. That's a conversation for another day. We don't need to re-hype the Milroe thing. I was in a group chat with my friends talking about this, about, how these 2 quarterbacks are different, but how I think a play calling standpoint is a lot of it. Simpson got out of the pocket a lot. I mean, he acknowledged that he probably took some sacks. He shouldn't. He extended some plays and made some dangerous things that worked. As long as it's working good, it's going to be a hard thing to do next week against Missouri, who has so much speed coming off the edge. Damon Wilson, team of the week. We've talked about him. We talked about him when he left Georgia to come to Missouri. We'll see how this Alabama team continues to develop. They're scary. 3rd in the SEC right now. I think the week 1 was a wake-up call. They have a hard schedule ahead. Vanderbilt, though, they're not out of it. They're not out of contention here. Like, they're still a playoff, I don't want to say playoff likely team, but they are a playoff capable team, no doubt. And I think this being a road loss to a really good opponent, now 5-1, 1 game from bowl eligibility, the road for them is not over.
Yeah. And these 2 teams play a lot of the same teams, right? So Alabama's playing Missouri next week. Vanderbilt's going to play LSU in 2 weeks. Alabama's going to play LSU this season. And then they're also playing Auburn as well. Vanderbilt's
South
playing
Carolina.
Alabama's going to play South Carolina. Vanderbilt's going to play Auburn. Obviously, Alabama's going to play Auburn. They play a lot of the same teams. And as a 1-loss SEC team, you're still in it mathematically.
Yeah.
This was the point in the season where things got a little tougher for Vandy after beating Bama. They were playing a lot of close games. They didn't beat Mizzou last year. That was their first SEC game. It's like, can they get over the hump to win these games as the season goes on? Does this brand of football work to win games going forward versus just being in games?
Texas was close last year as well. This Vanderbilt team, it's what I was saying, like it's a big gimmicky to where it works early on. And this is just my perspective on it, where it works early on, but as teams get their legs under them and start to figure out what they're doing, how many shovel passes can you complete a game? They got 2 on Alabama that Alabama looked like they had, they were seeing ghosts. They were standing like traffic cones out there on those plays. But how many times can you do it in a game? It's backyard football style, which is tough for some teams, polished defenses to go against because it's tricky. But again,
and then you look, it's a fair point, right? And I think the LSU defense is pretty nasty from what we believe, and Missouri, I think they're a good team, and so I'm excited to see them kind of play some tougher competition. Texas could be a tough one. I'm interested in that one, hoping to go to that one potentially. And then on the Alabama side, they're undefeated in conference. Bama might be back. Hey. So and then
don't
you
hold them out.
You got Mizzou, Tennessee, South Carolina. This is the stretch. This is the stretch. Got to go to SC. We don't know who SC is going to be in week 9, but got to go there. So there's a couple games that I'm interested to see.
Yeah, you're third in the SEC right now. The 2 teams ahead of you, Ole Miss and Texas A&M, you don't play either of those teams now as Alabama. So as the season goes on, Ole Miss will play Georgia. A&M is going to have to play Texas. There's going to be some different games that could maybe shake up these SEC standings. This is just where it is right now. With no divisions, it's wide open. So, with that, let's talk a little bit on A&M, because the first half of the game was not the second half of the game. First half of the game, I was watching Mississippi State get some good drives going behind Fluff Bothwell, behind the mini running backs that they have, Devon Booth, Johnny Daniels. They got guys. So Mississippi State, they're making things happen, but they couldn't put it in the end zone. Blake Shapen was getting a lot of pressure on him. A&M just having a couple mistakes early on, but they righted the ship in the second half.
Yeah, just definitely a couple of mistakes early on. And it although Mississippi State was driving a lot, it still never felt like they could take over in the game, but it still said a lot about the team. And they obviously, Texas A&M watched a lot of film against that Tennessee game because they were really able to kind of shut down this offense. This Mississippi State defense was really deconstructed from last season. And this was the game where you couldn't see them go all 4 quarters. And I think it's just a byproduct of Texas A&M's weapons are more talented than Mississippi State's weapons. That's pretty much what I saw in this game. Le'Veon Moss goes down, insert Ruben Owens, right? If it's not Casey Concepcion, it's Mario Craver getting a handoff to score a touchdown. All these guys are playmakers. That's the problem.
I mean, they're the best team in the SEC. Texas A&M is. I think you could make a claim for Ole Miss right now with Trinidad Chambliss, how hot he is. You can make a claim for an Alabama team now at this point in the season, but I do think it's A&M right now, and I don't think that it's you can debate too much against it. They're hot. The weapons are hot. Marcel Reed is developing as a passer. There's too many weapons to attack a team with. They play in such a hostile, tough environment when you do have to play them in College Station. I like what A&M is going to do this season. I mean, I think they're going to find themselves in Atlanta.
They have the best schedule out of the teams that are undefeated in conference. I would say A&M they get to skip Georgia, they'll play Texas, and Texas doesn't look as good as people anticipated. They'll play LSU. LSU has some offensive things to improve. I think A&M has the best path right now to Atlanta.
And if they get Notre Dame as a resume booster, should Notre Dame continue to win in their very, very weak schedule, they're ranked now as long as they beat all the rest of the teams ahead of them, which they're going to be favored in. That continues to be a resume boosting win for A&M. Not that they might even need it, because they might find themselves in Atlanta where resume doesn't even matter.
Right, exactly. You're in Atlanta, you're making you make it to Atlanta, you're making the playoffs, and my bad cutting you off there, but their performance looked super good, and I think the story is not just the offense, the defense. Torian York is a dog. We talked about Damian at linebacker. He's a dog. Cassius Howell made our team for the team of the week as an edge defender, three sacks in the game. The team that I saw playing defense against UTSA and Utah State looked completely different against Mississippi State, who is very good on offense from what we've seen. So they look like the most complete team in the SEC. You asked me last week, I was going to say Ole Miss. If you asked me 2 weeks before, I would have said Oklahoma. there's kind of a traffic jam of really good teams, and I'm not ready to crown them number one. I know I picked Mississippi State in the game, so A&M fans come at me, but I think they are a top 3 team in the SEC. I'm not saying which number, but they are a top 3 team in the SEC.
For sure. And let's talk, you mentioned Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. I want to talk about Oklahoma really quickly because a game against Kent State usually would mean not that much. But this week, it meant a lot for Oklahoma because it was the first look at Michael Hawkins Jr., how he improved season over last. Because last year he had to come in, make some plays. He looked okay against Auburn, looked pretty bad against Texas. And now he's going to be your guy when you play Texas next week. I mean, almost every opponent on Oklahoma's schedule is ranked right now. The only one that's not is South Carolina, and they're pretty good. At this point, they've improved. So it's not like there's going to be an easy path for Michael Hawkins Jr. Now leaving this game, I do feel a little bit confident when he's playing Texas next week, has to play South Carolina and probably Ole Miss, those 3 games, that he's going to be able to be competitive in those games.
I think he's going to be competitive. He's going to be fine. I'm going to stand on what I said. I think he's faster than John Mateer. I saw it in some of the runs. He's a little bit shiftier. And he's got an arm. I mean, he was launching it against Kent State. One of the touchdowns that Isaiah Tategna had 3 guys in yellow jerseys around him. I don't know if that gets completed against SEC competition, but he looks really good. This defense is nasty. They forced their first turnover of the season and was able to score afterwards. They were celebrating the end zone. Weak-ass refs are out here throwing penalties about that. But this defense looks good. They look like they'll be fine. And I like I said, I think they're going to do well against Texas. And if you watch our preview, you'll see who I picked, but I think they'll do well against Texas. So any other thoughts from Oklahoma, Kent State?
I think, that was the big part of it is that quarterback. We're going to have a preview up for the Texas game. I think that's going to be one of the best games of the season. So be sure to tune into that. We're going to talk more in depth about what he can bring to the game. We had one more game in the SEC this week, Georgia, Kentucky.
The earliest one.
It was early.
It wasn't too much of a game, but definitely some things to take away for Georgia and some things to take away for Kentucky.
Yeah, Georgia, you got Gunnar Stockton involved with his legs early on. He had 2 rushing touchdowns right out of the gate. Score doesn't necessarily reflect the dominance of the game. I mean, kind of garbage time touchdown from Kentucky right there at the end. Georgia looked pretty good. I mean, they shut down what Kentucky brings offensively, which isn't much, but they found the playmakers and shut them down. I didn't expect anything less than what happened in this game, to be honest.
No, same here. And from a Georgia perspective, we'll talk about the winner. The offense was humming. It was just a matter of our guys are more talented and better coached than your guys. Would have liked to see more from Gunnar Stockton in the air, but he does more on the ground than what Carson Beck brought last year, and he's got 5 rushing touchdowns in the season now. That was what he brought to this game. The O-line was nasty. The offense was humming, and they'd never let Kentucky feel like they had a shot in this game. I had a buddy who was betting on the first half point spread when it came to 7.5, and so when Kentucky was driving to potentially score a touchdown and miss a 26-yard kick, he was happy. But that to me is the story of the Kentucky offense. I can't say anything about the Kentucky defense because they're working overtime. Kentucky offense is not working.
Yeah, they're putting themselves on the field a lot. Kentucky, one of the worst first down getting teams in the country. It happens. We can talk in another video about what they need to do from a coaching standpoint. I mean, you tried multiple quarterbacks. It's not changing. You have weapons offensively. I'm not going to say that they're down from a receiver standpoint versus any other team in the SEC. They got fast guys. They got pass catchers. Josh Caddis almost made our team of the week. He's a good tight end, good option there. Seth McGowan, great running back.
Highlighted the offense for sure.
Highlighted the offense. Kentucky just not necessarily that team right now. They're the one that the rest of the SEC is kind of beating up on right now, and unfortunate to find yourself in that position. But someone's got to lose a game. Someone's got to win it. Unfortunately, this one for Kentucky, it was Georgia, taking care of business.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's what it is. And super quick, concise. There needs to be a change at the coach position. There's no energy on the sidelines. There's no energy for the program. From when I watched the game, I don't understand going into a season and expecting to lose to Bama, Georgia, and other top SEC teams. Why even field a team out there if you don't think you're going to win those type of games? So, my thoughts there. And just to wrap up, around the country, any thoughts on the action? I think the game of the week was the Florida State Miami game. Ohio State played Minnesota. And obviously Penn State lost to UCLA. So when we look at the top 10 and the top 25, there was some shakeup potentially coming up here from those games. Thoughts on the other games around the country?
I mean, Miami is the best team in the country. I'll say that. I think Miami is best team in the country right now, team to beat. They're going to win the ACC. They're going to find themselves probably the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Book it. Carnell Tate, player of the week. I mean, belt to ass against Maryland or Minnesota. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Gophers.
He had 190 yards, 186 yards on like 9 catches. He did his thing. Penn State, embarrassment of the week. SEC transfer Nico Iamaleava doing his thing under coaching changes at UCLA. Penn State,
5 touchdowns for sure.
We knew Penn State was trash. I mean, they're always a product of let's win a very weak Big Ten schedule and lose our big games close and then find themselves in the top 15 because of it. Now they find themselves here in a game like this, coming off of back-to-back losses now, one at home against Oregon and now here against UCLA. Those were the big ones this week. Iowa State losing was also pretty big.
Iowa State was also pretty big. I want to say I picked Cincinnati in my college football pick'em. Ball knower. They were on the road. I feel like in college football this season, playing at home has been the dominant advantage, and that's what Cincy had there. So that's pretty big for the Big 12. Texas Tech beat my alma mater, Houston Cougars, pretty bad. So they'll probably find themselves in the top 10. They were ranked number 11. And I think that was kind of like the main games for the Big 12. And I like Florida State should, I think, drop to 23. Virginia snuck away a win over Louisville, who was undefeated in the ACC. Yeah.
BYU did good.
Yeah, BYU did good. So they got the win there. I saw a clip. It was like they're like, there's something about the game with 3 minutes left, and people were like, well, they can't go out and drink afterwards.
That's funny. That's funny. West Virginia fans are probably ready to get out of there and drink. 2 completely different cultures there.
Right.
West Virginia backdoor score to cover.
No, but BYU looks legit. They're 5-0 now, and we're recording this at 12:48 Eastern. We're waiting for the AP to come out, but definitely should be some shakeup there. And that's ACC, Big 12, Big 10. We talked about the SEC, and there wasn't anything crazy in the G5. I mean, USF played Charlotte on Friday night. As a win. But big win. We're excited to see these new rankings. Excited for week 7 to come up here. If you had any thoughts about the action around the country, the action in the SEC, our thoughts on some of these games, go ahead and drop a comment or write a post. So, like, follow, subscribe. Hunter, any last thoughts?
That's it. I mean, we're getting ready to get our previews going for this week, so be sure to tune in to all the SEC games coming up in week 7. We got a pretty packed slate, 7 games. They're all going to be pretty good. I mean, every game is going to be good this week. So be sure to tune into those previews. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the content we have coming out around your favorite SEC teams and all of the SEC content that we post. As always, I'm Hunter Ziesman, joined by Randall Adet Jr. We are the new SEC podcast. Tune in next time, and thanks for watching.